Hello everyone and welcome to part 16 of Rideshare application development. If you don't know what Rideshare application is, please watch part 0 of this series where I explain what this application is all about. So in part 16, we'll be developing the account confirmation in the API. So we'll be creating an endpoint that allows the API consumer to send email verification and another endpoint that verifies the user account. So in the email that is sent to the user, there will be a link to the second endpoint, and the second endpoint, once it verifies successfully the user, it will redirect him to the page specified by the front end. So let's get started by creating in our API folder the backend API, in the src, in the app.js. First, we'll create the endpoint that allows the API consumer to send emails. So the endpoint will be verification, and the function that handles the request will be named send verification request handler, and it doesn't need the DB. Alright, now we create a function with the same name, a constant with the same name that store a function, and this function is a request handler, so it will receive the request and resolution in the parameters. Now, concerning this endpoint, we need the user information and we need the user to be authenticated, so we cannot allow this endpoint to run without having an authenticated user. So to authenticate the user before processing the request, we need to create a middleware, and we need to have the token in the header. So first, let's create the middleware. The name of the middleware will be auth, and of course it needs the DB. So this auth will be creating it in its own file in a folder called middleware. Inside of it there will be the file auth.js. Alright, first we need the GWT, of course, constant GWT equal require GWT. Then we need to create the request. We'll store it in a constant auth, which as we need to wrap the request actually in a function that receives the DB. Then it will return the request function with the request and as the parameters. Plus here, since it is a middleware, we need to use the next to inform that the check has been done and proceed with the request. Now, to get the token from the header, that we'll store it in a constant named token, we'll use the request dot header with s dot authorization. Now the authorization will return the value of the auth field, and the auth field we'll need to strip from it the bearer keyword. So we'll split it on space, and we'll select the second item in the resulting array. So this way we'll get the token without the bearer. Remember, the token in the header will be like this: bearer, then the token. Alright, we need to strip the bearer and capture the value after the bearer and the space. once we have the token, we'll need to decode it. So we'll create a constant decoded, which will be equal to gwt dot decoded. The decoded will need the token, of course, then the secret variable. Alright, this way we get the decoded token, which contains the user ID. Now with user ID we can retrieve the user information from the database, and we'll store it in a constant called user. Now with the db dot collection users dot find one, we'll use the ID to find the user besides the token, sorry, not token, the decoded. Alright, this way we'll have the user. Now we need to await for this operation since it is asynchronous, so we'll add the await and we'll make the function asynchronous. Now we'll check for the user availability with an if. So if not user, we'll return a res.send status of 401, which means unauthorized. Else we'll add to the request a user property which will have the user information and also the token. Then we'll call the next function to proceed with the actual request. Now here we could have some error, especially in the decoded token. Now here we need to handle the error we may get from the decoding of the token. So we'll wrap this function with a try catch. Now here, in case we have received an error, which most probably 99% will be from the token, we'll send the user a 403 this time, which means forbidden. So the user, the token is wrong or it is expired. In that case, we send a 403 forbidden. Now we haven't checked for the expiration date of the token. We'll do it now. So here we'll check if date.now is larger or equal to decoded.x1000, since it is in millisecond. If the expiration date is lesser than the current date, then we'll throw an error. Throw new error, which will throw us to the catch block, and here the consumer of this endpoint will get the unforbidden 403 status. Alright, now we will be using several times this decoded with the check for the expiration, so we'll put it in its own function. So we'll copy these two lines and we'll create a function here, or a constant decode that will contain the function. Alright, now we need here in the parameters the token, of course. Alright, so now just the token, and we'll retrieve first the decoded, then we'll check for the date, and finally we'll return the decoded if the date is not expired. Of course, we'll use the same technique of throwing a new error, and this will be handled, of course, by the request or the middleware. So here, instead of decode, I will name it verify token to be more clear. And here I made a mistake, it should be verify actually, not decoded. Then I will use this function instead of this process here, providing with the tokens that we have just retrieved from the header. Alright, so concerning this function, I will export it into its own file inside a file called helper.js, which will contain some functions that help us in our development, and this function will be 99% a common one that are used multiple times. So here I will first pass this constant, and I will export. Sorry, I will use module dot exports the verify. I'm sorry, in an object, because there will be several other functions. The verify token. All right. Now for the verify token, we need the GWT. So I will get it from here. Alright, and I will import I will get the verify token, which will be equal to require /z helper. Alright, so this is the auth. Now I need to import. I haven't exported it yet, so module.export equal to auth. So it will be, I will export it as the default function or constant. Now I need to import the auth here in the header. So I will. So now I have the auth, and I can, as I'm using it here, as a middleware for the secured endpoint. So for the verification for the verification, before we proceed, there is one thing I would like to grab your attention. Usually in the front end, after the user registers a new account, the developer of the front end, of course, need to send immediately a verification email. And since the verification email need to be authenticated, so there must be a token in the header. We need to give a token to the API consumer or to the front end after the registration is successful. So we'll go back to our registration. Here, the endpoint /post/users. Here's the endpoint /users that has the function handler, request handler. So here in the request handler, we need to send a token here instead of the results which contain currently the user ID. So we'll create a new token with constant. What I will do is create a function. Here I will copy an example of token creation in the login here. So I will copy this statement, and I will create a function here. I will store it in a constant. I will name it sign token. It needs, of course, the token. Alright, I will pass this code, and here we have the expires in. In the parameters we need the ID of the user, and here we'll replace user.id with the ID. I'll keep the conversion to string. Now for the expired in, also we need the value in the parameters, and by default we will set it to 1 hour. Alright, now here we will set the expires in to the X parameter. Alright, this is our sign-in token that we can replace. With it we can replace the sign-in token in the login endpoint or the login function that handles the request. So here, instead of this code, I will create a constant token that we call the sign token with the user.id. And for the second parameter here, we need to specify the expired in. Alright, so this will be the signed token. The same way we'll do it for the request sender. So here, after successfully registering a new user, I will call the signed token with the user ID. So here we are using the value, so we replace it with value, of course, value dot underscore ID, and then request dot body. Here we need to set the expires into 1 hour, which is the default. So we remove the second parameter, and that's it. Now we have the token. We can send it with the response of for this request. So now, after the user has been successfully created, the endpoint will return a token. Alright, so here we can rid of the constant results since we are not using it. Alright, now after the front end receives the token, alright, it can call the verification endpoint using this token in the header. So concerning the send verification function handler, alright, we need to check if request.user.isEmail verified. Remember, in the request now we have the user and the token that is sent to us by the auth middleware here. So we can check if the user email is verified. In that case, we return res.send with the message email is already verified. Next, we need to create a token. So we could send in the email. So constant token equal. So here I forgot to move this function to the signed token. I need to move it to the helper, and I will export it in the exports object. Now in the app.js, I will import both of these functions because I will need them both from the ./helper. I need the signed token and the verify token. All right. Later on, you will see that we need the verify token for verifying the user once he click on the link that is sent to his by the email. So here, constant token sign token with the request.user._id, then we'll set it to, in this time, to 15 minutes because we need it to have a short life because this token will be put in an insecure environment in the email. So we'll set it to 15 minutes. After that, it will expire. Next, await send verification email. All right. So this is a function that will actually send the email, which we will be creating it very shortly. And this function will expect as a parameter the user object, the token, and a redirect URL. So concerning the redirect URL, we'll get it from the request.body.redirect. So the front end need to send also a redirect in the body. So we will be using the redirect. All right, once the user verify his account successfully, we'll be redirecting him to the specified page here. All right, if everything is successful, we'll send. All right, we'll send a 200 to the front end. Now we'll wrap this block in a try catch. and inside the catch, in case there's any error, we'll console.log the error and we'll send a status 500. Alright, now we don't need any more the GWT, we can get rid of it. And now we'll be creating the send verification email that will actually send an email. Now to send an email, we need to use a package that is called NodeMailer. First, we need to direct our path to the API folder, then npm I NodeMailer. Once it has been installed, we require constant NodeMailer equal require NodeMailer, and then we'll create the configuration object which needs the service type. Here the service will be Gmail. I will use my Gmail to send the email. And I need to provide, of course, the authentication, the credential. So my username here, the email, and for the password I have stored it in the environment folder. So here in the .env. All right. Now after creating the configuration object, we'll create a constant. We'll name it transport, which will be equal to NodeMailer dot create transport, and this transport requires the email configuration object. Then I need to retrieve from the environment variable the base URL, which I will be using in creating the email creation. And finally, I will pass the function that is responsible for creating and sending the email. So here it is. I just passed it. It is named send email verification, and it seems there's an error in the naming here in our function handler. Send email verification. All right. So what this function do first is to create mail options that contain a couple of properties. The from, the to, we'll be using for the to the user email, the subject will be Rideshare account, email verification, and the HTML body. All right, which is this text here. Inside of this text, of course, you can notice that there's the link here, and this link will point to the verification. If you have noticed, it's the same name as the current endpoint. Now for the verification, to create another endpoint, this time it will have the get method. So this is the difference, and it doesn't need to be authenticated. Alright, so we'll create later on its own function. For now, I will comment it, and I continue here in the email creation, in the body. As you can see, we are pointing to the verification, and we are using here the base URL, which is set in our environment to localhost with a port of 3001. Then we'll send with it as a queries parameter the token in a T variable, and the redirect link in an R variable. So, and we'll display for the user the link. Alright, so he could see what what the link consists of. So this is it, and after creating the options object, we can send an email with transporter.sendEmail. Oh, sorry, here's the transporter. I will fix the name at the top. So transporter.sendMail with the, of course, mail options we have just specified. will send the actual email. So, and this is an asynchronous operation, so we'll add the await and we'll return the result of this operation. Alright, so here it is, here's the where the function is called, and I guess now we can give it a try. So I will run the server with npm run dev. Oh, okay, I got an error here. Await is only valid in async function on line 128. 128 await. So, oh, we need to set the, of course, it need to be an asynchronous function. No problem. Again, an error. Right. Oh, in the auth. Oh, I made a mistake here in the helper. I wrote the wrong name. It should be JSON web token. Alright. So this I fixed it. Alright. So let's try it in Postman. Here I have already created an email verification request in Postman. And if I click now send, of course I will get the forbidden because I need to provide to it a token, and the token that is currently registered is expired. Alright, I got the forbidden 403. So using the user login request, alright, I can log in and user login. For some reason I didn't get the token here. Let me check the login function in the app.js. Okay, request handler, the login request handler. I should get a token here. Here I'm using the signed token. Let me get back to the helper. Oh, big mistake. I'm not returning. So I need to return the result of this operation. Alright. Now I can test again. Oh, this time I got the new token, and I can use it in the email verification request here in the authorization tab, where I chose the bearer token. Okay, and I can, in the body, I will send the redirect parameter as HTTP for google.com. So if I click send now, I get 401 unauthorized for some reason. Oh, I need to remove the date here, checking for the date. Some mistake I have made, I'm sorry. So let me console.log decoded. Alright, I got the ID. So decoded underscore ID. Alright. I guess here the mistake is I'm not using the object ID to make this into an object ID for it so I can use it in the MongoDB. So here I'll import from MongoDB the object ID, and I'll use it to transform the ID string into an object ID. So this way I guess I will get the user. So if I test again, alright, we get a 200 OK. So if I go to my email, okay, I can see that I have received the email from the Rideshare app, and I have the actual link, that link to the verification endpoint. It has also the token, and the redirect is http google.com. Alright. So we have the link. What is left now is to create the verify endpoint. Here in my app.js, if I scroll down here, I need to activate now this link and create the function, which I'll name it verification request handler. All right, and this one needs DB because we need to update the user and set the is email verified to true. So that's why we need the DB here, and I can create the function here and store it in this constant here. First, it will be wrapped in a function that gets the DB in the parameter, and it will return the request handler function that gets the request res. All right. So for the verification, we need to first verify the token. So constant decoded equal to verify token, which at the same time will decode for us the token. So here we'll send with the actual token that is in the request.token that is sent by the auth middleware. And this is it. Now we have the token decoded. We can retrieve the user information from the database. I will quickly do a check to see if he is already verified. In case he is, I will send a message to the front end. Then, if not, I will update the user information with db.collection users dot update one. Now update one will take for the first parameter an object that we need to query with it for the selected user. So I will query the user by ID, and the ID is available in the request dot user, all right, dot underscore ID. All right, now here I'm decoding the token, but the token is already decoded, I guess. Oh, sorry, here I made a mistake. I need first to decode the token from the request dot query dot t. I need to decode the one sent by the request in the query parameter, and this one I need to decode it. So to make sure that the request is valid, then I need to retrieve the user ID that is retrieved from the token. So here, before I update the user, I need to make sure that the user is available. So I'll create a constant user, which will be equal to db.collection user, which I will store it in a constant. So constant users, all right, which will be equal to the users collection. Now users will be equal to users, same here, users dot find one underscore ID, which will be equal to decoded dot underscore ID. All right, now we get the user from the tokens sent by the request, and we'll check if there's actually a user in the database. So we'll check if not user, we'll return an error with for a 1. Then we'll check for the user if his email is verified or not. All right. Now again, I made the same mistake I did previously. Here I need to wrap it in object ID, which is supposed to be automatically imported. All right, object ID from Basin, from MongoDB. All right, so I'll move it to here, and okay. All right, back to our verification request handler. Here, since I'm using await, it needs to be async. And after making sure that the user exists and the email is not yet verified, I will use update 1 to update the is verified email attribute to set it to true. Now, for the second parameter of update 1, I'll specify the fields that need to be updated with its value using one of the modifier. Here we use the set modifier, and we set the is email verified to true. Alright, and we forgot to add here the await for users.find1. Alright, once we have successfully updated the user, we redirect with res.redirect to request.query.t, the URL provided by the front end. Now here in case, now here in case the email is already verified, we redirect also the user with res.redirect to a URL that is provided also by the front end, which will be request.query.te for .re for redirect error, and here I'm sorry, it should be R. Alright, so we need to provide another link, the RE. So I will go back to my email and I provide another parameter. This parameter will be the RE and will be redirect to. Alright, here redirect to. And I'll copy paste it also in the display of the link. So redirect to, we need to provide it in the parameter here of the send email verification. Here we're sending the redirect. We'll also send the request.body.redirect to. Alright, so back to our verification request handler. So here we'll redirect and we can append to it a query. The query will be M for message, which will be equal to email already verified. Alright, and here we wrap the wall block with try catch, because you may get error from decoding the token. It may be expired. So in that case, we'll console.log the error, and we'll also redirect the user, alright, with a message token expire. Alright, so now I guess we are ready to test. Now I will test, of course, but I will change one thing in the send verification here, where we are creating the token. I'll change the expiration time to 2 minutes for us to be able to test in case the token has been expired, what will happen. And I will save. Now in my postman, alright, where I can send an email verification, I send, before sending it in the body, I will set the redirect to another link. Now this is dummy link just for testing. Here http / for example twitter.com. Alright, so if there's an error, it will go to twitter.com. Alright, now we can send. Remember, the tokens that will be created here will be only will live only 2 minutes. So let's create the send. We reload. Alright, this is our email. and this time it contains also the second link, which is the Twitter. And let's click it before it is expired. If I click, oh, I got the token expired. Oh, the token also is expired. So here I made a mistake in the verification request handler, where I'm updating the user. I'm setting the ID to request.user.id, but here this handler doesn't have the user in the request because it's not secure, it doesn't have the auth middleware. So we need to use the user we are retrieving here. So it needs to be user.id. Now we are ready to test. If I go back to my Postman, I can send a verification email to the user, and I can go to my email and refresh. This is my email received, and this is the link. If I click on the link, alright, I get redirected to Google, which means it is successful. Now if I go to my database and reload, I can see the is email verified now is set to true. Now if I click again the verification link, I am redirected to Twitter, alright, because I am already verified. Alright, now this is supposed to, once we build the front end, of course, we will be redirecting the user to his dashboard, for example. Now in the dashboard, he will proceed with his account. Now in case the link is expired, of course we are doing the same thing, but we are setting here, instead of already verified, the expired. Now we'll wait for a minute or two. I will pause the videos and come back after 2 minutes to wait for the token to be expired. Alright, now the token is supposed to be expired, but of course if I click now, I get the token expired, which signifies that our token is expired, which is great. So let's set it back to 15 minutes, which is a reasonable time. So let's set it to 15 minutes. Alright, so that's it for get user. Okay, let's move this function beside its friends. Here's the create user. Alright, so this is it for this video. I hope you enjoy it and learned some useful information from it. If you do, please subscribe to my channel and give it a thumb up. And I will see you in the next video, alright, which will probably be implementing this procedure, the verification email, with React on the front end, and creating the login form. Alright, so see you. Take care.